everyone, welcome back to Studioloo. It's Cindy. We're here today with Junk Journal July, day number 18, favorite supply. So this one was challenging for me. I really think I had a lot of ideas about, probably like vintage pictures and cabinet cards are very high on my list. Vintage book covers, like things like that. It's hard. It's really a hard thing to kind of base down to. I would say like paper dolls are also something I really enjoy. And then I thought about how can I get more foundational about what I use all the time. Something that maybe I take for granted, that I don't even think about because I use it so often. So the supply that I came up with is actually sort of a supply and a process. The supply itself is cotton, and the process with which to get it to look like this is rust and plant botanical dyeing. So if you've been here for a while, you'll know that I do a lot of nature themed things, and even for things that aren't specifically nature, there's usually some element of nature. And I just love natural dyeing, working with natural fibers and dye plants and such. So honestly, that's a really big part of my journey here. So what I'm working on now are some journals that I've been planning for a while. I've made some already. They're called the Artist Sampler Journals, and they're kind of like, if you imagine you took, a little kind of stack of the papers that you would find from all of the sampling that goes on in an art studio or an art school or something like that. Swatch pages and, fabric samples and things like that. So I've got some books. I'm going to be making 4 of these journals. I've made 2 of them in the past. So I'm going to be making volumes 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'm using these illustrated do-it-yourself encyclopedias, the Popular Science Edition. It's an old, I think they were, hold on, I think that they were from 1956, published by Ulrich Publishing Co. in Great Britain. Copyright in the Republic of the Philippines. Interesting. So yeah, they were these encyclopedias. So this is what I'm using as my base book. It looks very ugly right now. You will not recognize it when I get done with it. But what this is going to be is the cover for the spine. So it may get trimmed down a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure yet, but for now that doesn't matter. What I want to do with this is I want to use acrylic paints to do swatch samples on this fabric, and that's what's going to cover over these spines. It's going to probably get glued and stitched onto the book. We shall see. So what I have here all around me are red, or like the Roy G. Biv of acrylic paints, then some black, white, brown, and metallic at the end. And my plan is to just swatch on these fabrics because I need 4 pieces for my project. So this project is a very practical one for the timeline of the work that I'm making, and I'm just gonna get going with it. So the first colors that I want to jump into are the reds. And I have 4 here that I just need to give a little shimmy shake. Just going to shake all the paint up, because some of these paints are a little older, some of them aren't. I have a bit of an eclectic collection of paint going on right now. And the brush I'm going to use is nothing at all special. I have lots of what I call scrap brushes that hang around in my studio. It's kind of a round brush that's definitely seen better days. So I'm going to start with this unopened Deco Art Americana paint in deep burgundy. So I'm just going to put a little down here. My objective is to not use too much paint today, but I'm just going to just give it a little swiping around. And I think I'll go for kind of like a roundy, squarey kind of blob. And then I think, going to try to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of style maybe, because then I only have to use the paint one time, but I might need to move things around to do that. But let me just start, and then I'll see how I can accomplish easy access to all 4 of these. Maybe it's like this. 1, 2. Because we're on the first row. 3. And 4. Okay. That gives me a manageable workspace, I think. I'm not going to be running over myself too much. I do think I'm going to change brushes. This one is a little too scruffy for this. I need a flatter brush. So let me grab a different brush. Do I have one here in front of my face? No, but I do have one right here. Just one minute. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, that's better. But because it's a flat brush, I think it's going to make me paint a little neater than what the round brush did, which is okay. All right, so that is the burgundy. So set that aside, and we'll go into this Pebeo Magenta Primaire. And that's a nice bright. Okay. You can see some of the rusty screw behind this. I think this is going to give a much more interesting look than if I were to use just plain canvas. Okay. Now we have Cadmium Red Deep Hue from Liquitex. Try to use a little less paint because I probably have too much there. Similar color, but maybe a little deeper. Yeah, deeper. I know that these 4 fabrics are slightly different sizes. That's okay, because I don't want all of them to be identical. I did that sort of on purpose. And then the last red is Folk Art Cardinal Red. And this one sounds a little bit older. I can tell by how it's shaking around in the tube. It's okay. It's so nice to see like the same color in several variances, several hues. Okay, so that's the red group. Then we have the orange group. There's only 2. First one is Folk Art Glazed Carrots. Oh, and I need to shift these paint swatches down a bit. And I think what I might do, so I can create more space, is just move back some of these things and put my palette back here. I'm using this big cutting board palette today. I just kind of randomly grabbed it. Okay, should be all right. Okay. And the second orange is an Artist Series Vermilion. More of a Halloween orange, a little more red in it. This paint's a little bit thinner. Need a little more for coverage on those other two. There we go. But I'm already seeing like how this is drying. In the first couple colors I did, just the cool like hue, the tonality of being on something other than white is nice. Just gives it a depth. It's not so basic. Okay. Now let's move on into the yellows. So this first one's going to need a little shake, I can tell. And it is Americana Lemon Yellow. Whoops. It's okay. I think I want to bring this over a little more and make a thicker or a wider swatch with this yellow on this one. Oh, I have one more to do. Am I cleaning my brush? There we go. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to need to shift a little down to start the next row here. But we're still in the yellow group. I have one more yellow. And this is Reflex Yellow from Amsterdam. Okay, so this has to go here. And then this one, yeah, I think I can fit right here. And this one will start a new row. I need to text my husband and tell him the kids have turned up the television a little bit. Maybe they're watching like a children's action film, and I can hear it. It's The Incredibles, I think. Hopefully it's not too loud for you. Okay. A little layer here. I'll put the brush in here, and I need to bring this down and this, and I might just take a quick little break and put away the paints that I'm done with to create more space. Okay, a little tidying has been done, and now I'm going to move back on to the yellows again. I found a couple more yellows because I felt like my yellow range was lacking here. So I have found some basic Liquitex Basics acrylic color in another yellow. I don't see it. Ooh, but is this one dry? Yes, I think it is. Let me see if I can... No, that one's gone. Okay, that one, it goes to the graveyard. This one is Art Color in Yellow Ochre. So this one's okay. And actually, it's the color I was kind of, hoping for. An ochre yellow or a mustard. I probably need to do this wonderful exercise that I saw my good friend Mary Ellen over at Red Parrot, who's also doing Junk Journal July, by the way. You should check her out. She's really cool. She did this really cool exercise where she created like a color wheel template, and she laid all of her acrylic paints that she had in the color wheel to see like what she had and what she was lacking. And I thought it was so brilliant because, you know, a lot of us kind of collect things and they get a little like, you know, unorganized or put in like a knot. You know, we don't necessarily color organize things, and I thought it was really smart because then you know like what you can get and what you shouldn't get, and you also learn things about yourself. Like maybe every time you go shopping for paint, you're buying shades of like purple, or you're never buying shades of red, and you know, you sort of learn a little bit about that. And her objective, I believe, was she was trying to create more pleasing jelly prints, and she wanted to have a better color range so that she could, you know, have nicer prints. So now we'll move into the greens, and I thought that was just really smart. So I'm going to go, I think, for this one first, which is Deco Art Citron Green. And you know, you can choose to go sort of like from red to red orange to orange yellow. You know, like you can do that, but I'm not being too obsessive about it. I'm just laying down color that is in the family. This one I'll make skinnier. Okay. And I'll go into the Liquitex Fluorescent Green. Could speed this process up, but I figure we'll hang it a little bit. It's kind of fun to just paint and chat with you. I have some plans later today to go outside with the kiddos and spin some yarn outside. I think the weather has kind of cooled down a little bit. Took my daughter to skating today, and it's always kind of a weird shock to go into like the cold rink and put on her whole snowsuit, and I wear like a sweater usually and long pants, which typically in the summer I kind of classify myself as someone who has a pants allergy because I only wear sundresses all summer long pretty much, and if I could wear them all winter long I would, and I sort of do. I wear like tunics and tights a lot of the time because I'm just a dress person and I like dresses and long shirts. Okay. Oh, that's a nice color. It really goes on smoothly. I didn't even tell you what it was, but it is Americana Deco Art Kelly Green. Go to the next row. Then we're done with that one. Next I will do this sap green. I have to think about what I want to do with all my extra paint. So it's going to be leftovers for sure. I try to always use as much of my acrylic paint as possible, and then I just let it dry on the palette. I don't rinse acrylic paint down the sink in any way because it introduces microplastics into our water supply, and that's something I don't want to do. It's good when you're doing artwork, you know, or anything really that consumes materials or creates waste, to think about the very best way that you can be, you know, kind of a good citizen about it. And that's the kind of stuff I try to do, is like less waste. So even the painty water, I have, because I do pottery, I have a fine trap sink that I can trap all of that and then later get rid of it, you know, by throwing it away properly into the garbage, unfortunately, because it can't be recycled. But you can also use it in things like little microchips of paint. You could, you know, Mod Podge them down on something, like little sprinkles. Maybe I'll think of a way to show you how someday that I do that. I've seen online, and I don't know where I saw it, but I'm sure if you Google, you know, like ethical acrylic paint water disposal or environmental acrylic paint disposal, you'll find a video, probably the one I saw. This woman had a system that used like water, and it was outside, and she sieved her paint and like it through a very fine sieve so she could collect all of the sediment. It was really interesting. Okay, we're done the greens. Now let's move into the greeny blue kind of shade here, the aqua. This is a, it is Color Factory Deep Turquoise. I have no clue where this paint comes from. I get paint sort of randomly. Some of it I get thrifting, definitely. But it may have also come from Desserts. I'm going to go wide on this one. I just love this color so much. I'm going to indulge a little bit. Yeah, so Desserts is a nice little store. We don't have many of them, but there is one in my region. It's a lot of little art stores that I like to go to. I wish there were more of them. There used to be more of them, but fortunately I think Amazon replaced not only bookstores, but all the other things that we used to be able to get, right? but they're still out there, and I recommend looking for them, especially when you're traveling. It's always a good thing to look up your local bookstore, your local art and craft store, yarn store, quilt shop. You know, look for all that kind of stuff, because even if you're not a quilter per se, maybe you like to use fabric in your work, right? I know a lot of us use fabric. Okay, so this is Fluorescent Electric Blue from Deco Art in the neons. I always find that these types of colors that say that they're neon or fluorescent, they're always overhyped. And this one, I would say, is definitely overhyping itself, because this is not fluorescent blue to me. I was obsessed with fluorescent blue when I was a kid, when it was like really popular to have fluorescent everything. For a while we had, like, I guess it was in the maybe the late 80s, early 90s. Maybe the 80s more than the 90s. Okay, so I think I'm going to reverse the order so I can work on the bottom of this now. So just give me one moment. So it wasn't so much about reversing the order as just maybe making more room. So I tried to do that by putting my palette on top of my Ort jar there, so it's out of the way. So I'm going to continue in the blues, and I'm just kind of evaluating the space that I have. And I may end up foregoing the metallics or the blacks and whites and browns. We'll see how we get through the colors, because honestly, I prefer the bright, you know, colors more than I prefer the sort of neutrals for this. But I thought I would pull them out because I wasn't sure if I had enough variety of color to fill this up. So it was kind of like my backup plan if I didn't. But I think I'm color aplenty here, so I don't need to really be worried. I did iron these ahead of time, but somehow a couple of them have gotten a little wrinkly again. Okay, that was Utrate Ultramarine Blue. Now I will go for Cobalt Blue from Marie's Acrylic Color. That's a nice color. Whoopsies. Kind of reminds me of Wedgwood. So we did a STEAM program at the library yesterday, and it was all about invisible ink, and it was really fun. The kids did the project in two different ways. So the first way was using baking soda and water, and they used like an ear swab to draw a message or a picture on paper. This is Desert Turquoise from Deco Art. And so then they would draw their picture on paper or their message with this baking soda solution with water, baking soda and water. And then from there, they would let it dry, so you couldn't see anything at all because it was white on white paper, right? So Then, after it had dried, they went over to this other station where there was turmeric and water mixed together, quite a strong turmeric solution, and it turned the paper yellow, and the message where the baking soda was turned red. So it was like, you could see the hidden message. And then the second way that they did invisible ink was by pressing hard with like an object like kind of like a pen that has no ink in it, or like a blunt but kind of pointed but blunt end of something, and you write your message. Like the end of a paintbrush would work perfectly, and then you sort of scribble over it or graze a crayon, so the side of a crayon over it, to uncover the impression that the object made. So it was kind of cool and fun. I think another way that you could do that same sort of activity, and this is just my homeschool mom brain, is using like a candle or a crayon, like a white crayon, or even those watercolor resist crayons, and then using, watercolor paint over it, or some other natural type ink, like an ink that you make from black walnuts or something easier. But yeah, super fun project. The kids really enjoyed it. And then my daughter hung out with her friend in the library, and they read together with another another little one. That was good. Okay, so there's the blue family. I'm not going to use this one because it's also ultramarine, and I think they're the same color. So that's blue. Now we'll move on to the purples. So the first one I have is Deco Art Purple Pizzazz, and there's not much of this left. So let's see if I can get some on the palette here. Yeah, I can. It's a really nice purple. It sort of reminds me of like, that commercial candy grape color. Yeah, it's nice. It's funny because I used to organize all my yarn by color in baskets, and I never thought of purple as my favorite color at all. I've always thought blue is my favorite color. But the majority of the yarn that I bought when I would try to organize it by color in baskets was purple, which is interesting. I think there's just a lot of different hues of purple, so I found like, there's reddish purples that I like, and there's bluish purples, and so I think that's what it was, is there's a lot of color range in purple. Many, many tones. And the next one is, that's a metallic, so I'm going to pass on the metallics, I think. The next one is going to be this beautiful color that again is a more reddish purple, and it's an Amsterdam red violet. Okay. One thing that you could do if you felt like, oh, I don't have enough colors to fill the whole piece of fabric you're working on, just repeat the whole Roy G. Biv. Just do another one. That's what I was planning to do. I even left, as I've been putting my paints away, I've left them in a row of colors in case I need to go back. But I think I've actually got a decent range here that I'll be able to complete these. Okay, so that's the purples. Now we'll move into the pinks. So this one is a bright, I don't think I can get that out. It is electric pink. I'm going to have to take it from the bottle because it's a little clunky. I'm not really worried about getting uneven or too close to the edge, because this is going to be fabric that wraps around the spine. So probably those edge colors, you're not going to see all of them anyway. I'm going to lose like from all of the edges of this fabric. So it's nothing to stress about. And also, you know, you want it to show the artist's hand. Anybody could do a perfect template of paint, but so then I'll go with this one, which is beautiful. It's almost a little purpley. It is red violet light, so yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's a little purpley. I had thought about using it next, but that's okay. Sometimes you just fight the temptation to do things in a planned kind of way, right? Okay. Eerily quiet upstairs. I don't know if my family took the dogs for a walk or somebody's asleep. Okay, and then the Liquitex Basic Crazy Bright Fluorescent Pink. We'll go with that one. Okay, and this is the last row for this one. Okay. And then baby pink, and this one does not have a lot inside the bottle, so I'm going to take it right from the bottle. I think for this one I'm going to do a long swatch just to fill in that. Okay. And I could go look and grab some more pinks, but I think I might just go into using the blacks and brown. The black and browns might be good. Okay. Then I don't have to get up and pause again. So I think after this I will do browns. So I'll start with this Deco Art. This is Burnt Umber. I'm going to make this the last row for this one. And then over here, I'm going to just do that. Okay. This one I'm going to do the long swatch of brown. Okay. Then I will do burnt sienna, which is just kind of a lighter brown. This will be the last bit of paint for this one. Okay. And then next I'll do black, and I'm just using Artist's Loft. And this one, then I need white, and I will use some of this Utrate Titanium White. And that finishes this one. Then for the very last color, I have two spots. So I'm just going to pull a little of the black and white together and make a nice little kind of stone gray. Not a lot of space for this last little bit anyhow. So just grab a little more of that paint. Okay, so these swatches are all done. I will dry them, and then maybe I'll show you how I'm going to cover one of my covers with them. Okay, so we have attached all of the lovely swatches to the spines how I wanted to. So let me just talk to you a little bit about this. So how did I do this? So the first one, I used Fabri-Tac, the Fabri-Tac glue underneath the cloth to glue it on, but I knew the whole time that I really wanted to stitch on my sewing machine around this whole thing to give it like that nice look. So doing that on your sewing machine requires definitely a sharp needle. So a sharp needle and some good like Gutermann thread or linen thread is what I used. And so yeah, as I mentioned, you would lose some of the top and bottom. And you'll see that, you know, I flipped them over because I used really nice 3M sheathing tape to make the outer. I had to make larger spines for these books, so that's how I did the connection. It's my favorite tape to use on these kind of connections, other than Teflon tape, they're both equally great because they're not all creaky and weird when you put them together, and your book is nice and flexible once it dries. So I also put a nice bookbinder's quality cheesecloth on the inside of the book, so you won't see any of this when this is all put together, but that's kind of what the guts look like. So then here on the outside, you won't recognize these covers either. These are going to be changed in many ways by the time that I'm done with them. But yeah, after I used the Fabri-Tac, I then decided I didn't need such a heavy-duty glue because I would be stitching, so I just went with glue stick actually, and the glue stick that I use is this OIC Office Mate glue stick. It's a really great glue stick. I've been using it the whole time I've been making journals and never had an issue with anything with it. So yeah, so I've got all 4 of these, and I like them because they're all different. You know, some of them come over more on the back than the others. Yeah, I just like how the plant stained or plant dyed cloth gives a much richer and deeper look to this than what it would be if it was just like white canvas. And I'll probably, as the books change, I'll probably ink the edges with black or something like that, but I'm not going to go too into detail on what I'll do there because I'm not exactly sure yet, because the books will have to kind of become themselves soon. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working on these. I think that this was a really fun technique, so give it a try if you're into, you know, learning to do rust or botanical dyeing cloth. Try painting on it. It's a lot of fun. It's very nice, and it turns out really lovely. So that's my little project for today, and I hope that you're having a good day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.